Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Just one more itsy bitsy teensy weensy fucking reminder that we are streaming tonight, June 13th, at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, in celebration of the channel finally crossing 4,000 fucking subscribers. We're gonna drink, we're gonna party, we're gonna shoot the shit, we're gonna play a bunch of video games, including the now apparently legendary Dream Daddy, which y'all have been begging me to replay ever since the Christmas stream. And full disclosure, this is very likely going to be the final live stream we do for quite some time. So for that reason alone, I highly recommend you tune in, even if just for a moment, to say hello and share a quick drink tonight. Once again, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about this self-titled debut album from Go Ahead and Die. Go Ahead and Die is the latest endeavor from Brazilian heavy metal superstar and bona fide fucking legend Max Cavalera, who over the course of the past 35 years has performed and recorded and toured with everyone from Soulfly to Killer Be Killed to Nail Bomb to Cavalera Conspiracy and of course the iconic Sepultura. Rounding out the lineup, you also have Zach Coleman, perhaps best known as the drummer for Khemmis and Black Curse, and Max's own son, Igor Amadeus Cavalera, who has worked with Max in some of the projects we've just mentioned, but is perhaps best known still for being a member of Lody Kong. Worth noting as well, the album is produced, mixed, and mastered by one Arthur Rizk, the drummer for Eternal Champion, and a gentleman who has produced some seriously heavy material from Venom Prison, Tomb Mold, Power Trip, Cro-Mags, Integrity, and many more. Definitely a lot of mega talent on display here, no arguing otherwise. But I feel like we'd probably be talking about Go Ahead and Die still in at least some capacity, even if this wasn't a super group, because what this band have concocted is a seriously heavy and sinister blend of influences from across proto-death metal and very early thrash and extreme metal and hardcore punk, and they've combined it with a very politically expressive and unapologetic kind of underbite that I don't know if I've really seen from any of the projects that we've mentioned so far, at least not within recent memory. At the very least, I sure as hell can't name any songs from, say, Khemmis or Cavalera Conspiracy about illegal immigration or American nationalism or anything along those lines. And combined with the very raw, grainy, primitive kind of hardcore crust punk sound mix, it makes for an album that is incredibly fierce, incredibly provocative, and incredibly fucking heavy. In a press release, Igor even went as far as to say, like a riot breaking through your windows, Go Ahead and Die arrives with a revolting mix of punk and metal, the perfect soundtrack to these dismal times. And I think I'd mostly agree with that statement. Perfect is a bit of a bold word, but a lot of what's on here definitely feels appropriate. I mean, this album just constantly feels like a pair of brass knuckles going through a neo-Nazi's skull. For instance, you've got a track like Toxic Freedom, in which Go Ahead and Die direct their anger towards conservative media and organizations that claim to be patriotic but often encourage, or at the very least are complicit in, hate crimes and police brutality and borderline fascism. Writing here, brainwashed minds behind every crime turn their eyes blind to the grime, obey the fools policing doom. It's always authorities killing minorities. Shut up and do as you're told. No rights, closed eye, die when you're told to. There's also the track Roadkill, in which Go Ahead and Die reflect on the collective health of the planet Earth itself, not just in a figurative sense, but also literally, talking about famine, starvation, global warming, and climate change. Writing here, normally it's me against the world, normally, wrongfully the world against me, wrongfully, suffocating heat as the world burns, starving in the street, bloody concrete. And then there's ICE Cage, which confronts how the United States government these last few years, especially with this last administration, has just treated immigrants and refugees and people of color like absolute garbage. Literally separating children from their families at the fucking border, throwing them in cages, leaving them to die. It's all very straight to the point and downright fucking brutal. Not just lyrically either. It's complemented by a pretty harsh and nasty blend of like classic hardcore spirit and like proto-death and thrash metal riffery. I'm reminded of stuff from like Possessed, Slayer, even some very early Sepultura recordings. The track Punisher in particular, despite its pretty nasty hardcore beatdowns, honestly feels like something that could have been on like Beneath the Remains way back in the day, particularly with that very old school kind of drum fill in the introduction and that flurry of like almost blackened thrash riffery. But the award for most universally poignant and relatable cut on the record will very likely be given to Truckload Full of Bodies, the album's very stark and blunt and kind of apocalyptic opening number. Like, we may not all agree on Black Lives Matter or illegal immigration, but surely we can all agree on some very basic level that politicians from all sides of the political spectrum, with maybe like, what, one or two exceptions, have completely fucked up their COVID-19 response. Just completely fucking bundled it. Like, this past year did not need to be as painful or as confusing for so many people as it fucking was. And Truckload Full of Bodies confronts that directly. I gotta give a quick shout out to the track Worth Less Than Piss, which stands as one of my favorite cuts on the record for its absolutely acidic fusion of like hardcore and thrash brutality. Hands down, one of the most sonically brutal and extreme cuts on the record. I can practically feel poison being spat at me by Max as he sings and raves like an absolute fucking lunatic. I'm feeling a very enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5 on this. On every level, the album is just an incredibly agonizing and simultaneously energizing listen. I mean, it's really hard not to just want to fucking punch something while you're listening to a lot of these tracks. I will argue that there is some filler on the album, and I will also argue that some of the longer tracks would benefit from having at least a minute's worth of fat being trimmed completely off. But all in all, I really don't have any like major concerns or criticisms, at least none that would actively derail this piss and vinegar marinated roller coaster. Anyone looking for like a really authentic and old school kind of 80s punk metal record should be very satisfied with this, as should anyone who's been following Max throughout the past 35 years, particularly if you are one of those fanboys who is still vying, begging, praying for Max to somehow return to Sepultura. He won't, for the record, duh. It's weird I even have to say that in 2021, but if you still have those dreams, you can maybe take solace in some of the riffs and in some of the arrangements on here, which do, again, feel like they could have been pulled from a very early Sepultura record. I'm willing to bet that more politically conservative metalheads will be triggered by a lot of what Max is talking about on here, and that's fine. You don't have to like or agree with what Max is saying, but at the very least, give it a shot regardless, because I promise you, Max hasn't been writing shit this nasty for a while. And at the end of the day, isn't that what extreme music is all about? Writing extreme fucking music? That's always the vibe I got, at least. 3.5 out of 5, a damn enthusiastic one at that. Definitely check this out. Definitely make sure it's blasting in the background while you're, I don't know, throwing a brick at a cop car or something. I don't fucking know. Whatever y'all do in your spare time. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? Press this button right here to subscribe for updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Make sure you tune into our live stream, which is once again happening tonight. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.